BetOnline is the #1 source for all your summer sports this season, from MLB and golf to the NBA and NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. What's up, Astros fans? Jeff Balke and Mike Stanton here for a quick Friday update. The Astros mercifully begin a stretch of games against teams below 500, like themselves. First up, the Nationals in the nation's capital. Mike, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great. And, yesterday was probably as a much needed day off as you could possibly get. Not going to make excuses, but the stretch of games that they just went through was pretty remarkable to start the season. Yeah, the Yankees didn't make the playoffs last year, but they're still the Yankees.
Right.
Okay. And they're the best team in the American League right now as far as record is concerned. The only other team that was not a playoff team last year that they played this year were the Kansas City Royals, and they played like a playoff team.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good this year.
Yeah. And they, 20 of 21 days they played games. It was kind of crazy, but that's in the rearview mirror. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere close to what we wanted, how we wanted it to go. But it's done now. Now you can move forward. They're back on the road. They're in DC. This should be a stretch that they actually, and maybe bigger than all that, is you got your Hall of Famer starting again tonight.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. That's a huge deal. Just health of any kind in the pitching staff is a big deal at this point. I'll take anything. I want to talk a little bit first about the dichotomy of this Astros lineup and how it's really impacting the team. Basically, right now, they have a few guys who are very, very good and a few guys who are very, very bad. And when you look at just a couple of numbers, they have four guys: Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, Jeremy Pena, all in the top 10% in the league, and a lot of the more significant, both normal and advanced metrics: weighted on base percentage, barrel rate, expected batting average. I mean, Kyle Tucker's like 100 points below his expected batting average, right?
Right.
On the other hand, though, you have guys like Chas McCormick and Jose Abreu in particular, who are in the bottom 5% in many of the same categories. Abreu is like in the bottom 1%. I mean, how do you handle a lineup that has that amount of that's just not balanced, right? You just have a big whole lineup. Last year you could deal with it a little bit because Maldonado, while he didn't hit well, he did occasionally give you home runs. I mean, he hit 15 or 16 home runs last year. But these guys, I mean, Abreu looks lost. How do you manage that?
Well, I mean, there's just such a disparity. And, there's a reason why we call it the top of the lineup. Those are going to be your best hitters.
Right.
And you hope that the second half of your lineup, the bottom of your lineup, can get a few base hits, get on base for the top of the lineup. And that's what we've seen in the past. This year, the reason it's so glaringly obvious now is because they're not winning baseball games.
Right. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, if you actually look at the numbers compared to the rest of the league, the Astros are third in batting average.
Yep.
They're up at the top of OPS. The place that they've struggled the most has been with runners in scoring position.
Yep.
And that's, to tell you the truth, you'd rather it be the other way around, just simply because you're just not getting the quality at bat when you have guys on base. So that's where the real issue has been. And yes, those guys that you mentioned, they have gotten off to the just about as roughest of start as you can have, especially Jose Abreu. But, we're still only 3 weeks into the season.
You're right.
And even as bad as it's been, and I know there's people out there talking about we need to do this, we need to do that, Lopafito needs to come up. We're not there yet.
No,
we're not there yet. I mean, you talk to any general manager, they're not really doing any analytical work. Well, they say this because they're actually doing it, but they're not taking a good hard look at their roster, at their team, until there's like 6 weeks in, after the 1st of May. And now all of a sudden, now the sample size is big enough.
Yes.
Now you see if we need to make some changes. But, those of us that are baseball fans, short for fanatic, it's pretty simple. We want everything to change now. We want them to win every game now. And, but that's just not the nature of the beast that we call baseball.
No. And you've said it before, and I think it's it's a good, important point that I think people should make note of. And that is, Major League Baseball decision makers don't start even thinking really about tinkering with their lineup until they're 6-8 weeks into the season.
Right.
Just like for the very reason that you said, is that you can't put together any kind of real data until you've been able to figure that out after you've been able to see people. Now, in the case of the Astros pitching, they might have to wait, 12 or 15 weeks because they've had so many guys out. They're going to need a larger sample size just to get guys healthy. But I will say one thing you mentioned is the on base percent. The left on base and the hitters with running scoring position. Chandler Rome had some statistics in an Athletic story today. Says the Astros are hitting, their OPS is 506 in late and close situations. They have
no, that's OPS. That's on base plus slugging.
On base plus slugging. Yeah, okay. Correct. And so they said of the 21 hits the Astros have in those situations, 19 are singles. And Jose Altuve is responsible for the only 2 extra base hits, both of those doubles. These numbers are crazy. Yordan Alvarez is 1 for 11. Bregman is 2 for 11. Tucker's 2 for 8. The guy who is actually hitting well in that position is Mauricio Dubon. My very good friend Katya, who's a huge baseball nerd, pulled up some of the stats and was like, he is, what was his number that she told me that was so crazy? He has a 76 percentile in batting run value, which means that when he's up at the plate, he makes contact and he tends to get guys in. And when you look at his advanced metrics as well, he's a guy that probably needs to be playing more, especially when there's not much they can do at first base. Everybody was calling for Loperfido, but let's be honest, Loperfido's probably not ready, and he's not like your number one prospect anyway. But Mauricio Dubon playing center field is something that you could do that might make a difference.
Yeah, and that may be something that obviously they're going to look at it because he's already been playing out there some. But Mauricio's his biggest value to the team is in his ability to play multiple positions and play them well.
Yes.
Not saying he's not good enough to play a position, but center field is one of the premier positions. This is supposed to be one of your dudes on the team. They're supposed to be one of your best players. And, even though we did see him turn on a ball the other day, a high fastball and drive it out of the ballpark to left, that's just not really his game.
Nope.
If you see what he does with runners in scoring position, he is almost exclusively right field. He tries to inside out everything, let the ball travel because he knows, stay up the middle and stay to the opposite field. That's his strong suit. But he's also just so good at making contact and not hitting the ball in the air, meaning, when he hits the ball the opposite field, a lot of times it's a low line drive.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen a couple times that he's hit the ball too low and they've actually been caught. So the numbers could be even better. But, that might be something short-term that you look at until, Jake Myers or until Chas McCormick kind of figure out what's going on and start swinging the bat better. Because how has center field been run the last couple of years? It's been pretty simple. It's the hot hand. Well, right now, between those two, there's really not a hot hand.
No, there isn't. How do you deal with a situation like Jose Abreu's? This is a guy who, you don't want to hurt this guy's confidence any more than it probably already is. But this is a guy who he's not just struggling. It's painful to watch him at the plate right now. If you're Joe Espada, how do you deal with something like that? I know that a lot of people are criticizing Joe for using saying, hey, look at the back of his baseball card. And, he's eventually going to even out. I don't think he will because, he's declining. He's growing in age and declining in skill. But how do you deal with that as a manager? What do you do to sort of balance the needs of the team versus the, confidence of the player?
Yeah. So when Joe is dealing with yahoos like you and me in the media, he's going to protect the player at all costs. That's his job. His job is not to throw anybody under the bus. We've seen many managers. Aaron Boone is one of them that we just say, What did you just say? In situations that it's blaringly obvious that the opposite is what's going on. But Joe's going to do that. Joe is going. He's extremely positive, and he's going to back the player. Now, what do you do? In the clubhouse? What do you do with work? Yeah, listen. Jose is a guy that looks like he doesn't care. Okay, he's a very laid-back guy. He's quiet. You don't see him throwing the helmet. You don't see him throwing the bat. That's not his personality.
Right.
But I can tell you, he is grinding as much as anyone possibly could. And the problem is he's probably grinding too much. The confidence probably is about as low as it could possibly be. And you go, well, this is a batting champion. This is a guy that's had done so much in his career. It doesn't matter. When you're struggling, you're struggling. And, major league players are human just like everyone else. Some of the most insecure players that I ever played with were actually Hall of Famers. And it was part of the driving force that made them who they were. So what do you do right now? You really can't do much because you don't want to lose the player. And you also don't want to send a message to the rest of the team that you are, there's a panic move involved. Okay. They've given them a few days off. Then they play him. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to just try and milk it along until that confidence grows. The problem is the confidence isn't going to grow until he starts having a better quality at bat, until he starts getting a few base hits. Maybe gets the head out and drives the ball out of the ballpark. Weight comes off of his shoulders. Now all of a sudden the confidence starts growing. It's not a chicken or the egg situation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Chicken or the egg, meaning which came first, the chicken or the egg? The answer is nobody knows because you can't have one without the other.
That's right.
But you cannot have confidence until you have success.
Yeah.
Even those guys that are cocky, they're not that cocky. They still internally, they still have the questions that all of us do.
Well, it's a what have you done for me lately league. All sports really are.
Of course it is.
I guess the big question comes down to is how much rope do you get, in a situation like this? I mean, I think if the Astros can start winning, especially playing some of these teams that don't have as good a record and maybe, don't have the caliber of talent the Astros do, then you can maybe limp along and not worry about what's happening at first base too much. Kind of the way they did with Maldonado and, at catcher. But I guess there's going to be a point. That's actually
the real problem. Mm-hmm. The real problem is that if they were winning, let's say they were just 500, you wouldn't have that same, venom when you start talking about the hole at first base.
Right.
But since they're not winning, so now you look at everything, and that's the biggest, glaring weakness right now is that they just really haven't gotten any offense, from Jose, and John Singleton swung the bat a little bit better, but there's just hasn't been any production coming from that first base spot in the lineup. It's
a huge problem. The good news is Justin Verlander is back tonight. His first start of the season in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital. What are you looking for from JV tonight? I mean, how long should we expect him to be out there? Like, what do we? I mean, obviously we know we're all hoping for, but I think what's a reasonable expectation for a guy, coming back like he is?
Well, I think he can give you a full start as far as number of pitches, which, they're probably not going to let him go to 100. But I expect, unless he gets into an inning that he just can't get out of it, I expect him to throw 80-plus pitches. And this dude can pitch. Now, I know he didn't throw the ball well. The numbers were not pretty from the 2 rehab starts, but those don't mean anything to me. He's working on things. He's worried about his, he's questioning how the arm feels, the shoulder feels, so I don't put much into those. There's also no adrenaline when you have a Hall of Famer throwing into minor leagues.
Right.
And there's all the adrenaline on the other side. So, because you want those those minor leaguers to go, I got to hit off Justin Verlander.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword for any major leaguer, especially a guy with the resume of Justin Verlander pitching in the minor league. So I don't put a whole lot of weight on that. But just the simple fact that he's going to take the mound in the first inning, I think is a big emotional boost for this team. To couple that with the full off day they had yesterday, it's one of the reasons why they left. They left after the day game the other day was that they had a full off day, no travel.
Yeah.
Pitchers can go play golf, whatever they're going to do. They can just relax and have a mental break day.
Yeah.
Because even when you travel, you have an off day and you travel, it's still, it's monotonous. There's still the stress of traveling. So they wanted to make sure that they had a full off day. And I think it was a very smart move. Couple that with the fact that JV is starting. I think this is a big emotional time for this Astros team. And, any health that you get in the pitching staff is going to be a big plus.
Yes.
And, possibly Fromber is right around just around the bend here.
Yeah.
So, things are looking up. I mean, it's crazy that they've used 22 or 23 pitchers.
22.
They've used more pitchers than they played games. That is incredible.
That's insane. That's just an insane number. They used 23 last year. They used 22. I mean, it's just remarkable. Let me ask you one question, then we'll let everybody have their weekend. Mm-hmm. How important is our days off for guys during the season? Like what? I mean, you pitched for quite a number of years, and you experienced this. What is a day off? Is it as big a benefit? Because I know baseball, it's a little different. You're playing almost every day. How does it benefit you?
It depends. It depends on if you're on a long winning streak and you're just winning games and things are going well. I've said it many times. I didn't want a day off. I want to keep this. I don't want anything. If someone's asleep, make sure they have their pillow. Don't wake them up. Just keep letting them dream of the run that we're on. But in a situation that the Astros were in after the Braves series, absolutely, it was huge. They needed it, and it's not a physical thing because all these guys have already had a few days off. It's not like they're fatigued; they're mentally fatigued.
Yeah,
and so I think that's where it was going to help more than anything else. Just give everyone a breather, go out and have some fun, or don't do anything. Whatever you want to do. Let's not talk about baseball.
What was your go-to?
Let's let that sleep.
What was your go-to day off thing to do? Like
most of the time in the situation that the Astros were in, I probably would have stayed home.
Yeah.
Or I would have checked with the manager to see if it was okay, and then I would have flown in. Then I would have a whole off day at home, and then fly in, this morning.
Right.
And, Joe Torre was very, very good about that. He knew that we all had families. And he just had a couple rules. You need to be in the city that we're going to be playing in by noon, 1 o'clock, something like that. You get to go to go to the hotel, get some food in you, so there's no issues with you getting there. Travel's a little different now than it was back then.
I imagine.
More flights back then, but that's probably what I would have done in this situation, because that would have been, my safe haven is, hey, let's take the kids out of school and let's go have a picnic or something. So, but everybody's different. Like I said, go play golf.
Yeah.
Go on a hike. Go do nothing. Sleep all day. I mean, whatever.
Whatever floats your boat. Right.
But just give yourself that mental break.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. All right. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. As always, thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll be back next week with a fresh pod ahead of my vacation. Speaking of vacations.
Oh,
the kid's getting a vacation. I can't wait.
Where are you going?
I am going on. It's just a very long story that I won't bore people with, but my wife and I somehow managed to wind up with a pair of tickets on a Great Lakes cruise that goes between Toronto and Milwaukee.
You might need your jacket.
It's going to be a little chilly, but the thing that's interesting about it is it's a very, very, very nice cruise with a very few people on it.
Cool.
And when we're in Milwaukee for a full day. The Yankees are in town, so I might catch a ball game while I'm there as well.
There you go.
Be something to do. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be a little rainy this weekend. I was just looking at my
brats and beer.
Yeah, some brats and beer for sure, 100%. So it's gonna be a little rainy and cool out this weekend. But honestly, if I were y'all, I would enjoy it because summer's coming. It's coming quick, and it's about to be real brutal outside.
Hopefully it's not like it was last summer. Oh, my gosh.
I don't know. Let's fingers crossed.
Anyways.
That's all we can say. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. And as always, go Astros.
Adios.